all the time, like we want to win a state title, and people laugh us out the room when we said we want to win a state title. And, I don't care what those people think. For me to tell you, just to be honest with you.
What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another Point After Podcast interview. Matthew was supposed to be here with me today, but weather got him tied up a little bit at work. But I am joined by first-year head coach at Southside High School, Miles Holcomb. Coach, how's it going, man?
Doing good. How are you? How are you doing, Gage?
I'm doing well, staying dry when I can, enjoying the sunshine whenever it comes around.
Yeah, rare.
Very rare down here in Alabama in the summer. So, Coach, to get started, just tell me a little bit about you, a little bit about your background, where you've been, how you ended up here at Southside.
I'm from Crossville, Alabama. Graduated from Crossville in 2005. I had a chance when I was in high school to play for Jeff Pugh and Chris Garman. So Chris Garman was there all the way through my sophomore year, and then Jeff Pugh got there through my junior and senior year. And then after high school, ended up going and playing in college at Shorter. We were an NAI school. Now they're a D2 school. So we had a chance to create the program, start the program. My freshman year was the first year we ever had, anybody. We didn't have a football program until my freshman year. Ended up my redshirt junior year, ended up winning the conference. So it was a big accomplishment for us. But then, more than anything was just having the opportunity to play for Phil Jones. That was an opportunity unlike any other. Not only Coach Jones, but we had some, my offensive line coach in college was Tim Mathis. Awesome guys. I mean, they were just great dudes to play for. They were like great mentors, great men. They taught you, what did it look like to be a great person, to be able to build relationships with the kids that you coach, but to also be a really good football coach too. And then once I graduated from there, I had a chance to come back home for 3 years and coach at Crossville. Unfortunately, I say unfortunately, I guess it's fortunate and unfortunate. Coached for 3 different head coaches as soon as I got back home. First year, coached for Bill Smith, who's now at Huffman. And then year 2 was Trey Pike, and year 3 was Robbie Coker, who's a, state title, coach, state champion coach at Plainview, but, in basketball. And so he had just came back home. He'd been at Ole Miss. And, I feel like I picked up something from all 3 of those guys, and then ended up having an opportunity to go and work for Tony Johnson at North Jackson for a year. We were in a weird situation, myself and my wife. Our son had just been born. She was teaching in Georgia. I was teaching in Alabama. We were just trying to find somewhere where we could be together because we were having to live separately. It was a disaster, a little bit. So after that, ended up taking a job at Haleyville with Bo Colder. Had pretty 2 successful seasons there, especially offensively. I think we set school record for points the first year with 505 points scored. Ended up getting beat in the quarterfinals. And then those 2 years were awesome, but had a chance to go back home, be the head coach at Crossville. It's an opportunity that, being a head coach, you don't get those opportunities very often. So had a chance to take that opportunity and, had 2 of the best years that I've ever had, being able to go to Crossville, take a culture that was basically non-existent, and, simply because the players decided they wanted to invest in each other and themselves, that, they completely changed the culture of the program. Ended up making the playoffs the second year in 5A, which, for a program that had won 3 games in 3 years, to make the playoffs in 5A was pretty successful. Now we ended up running into Briarwood Christian, who throttled us that one, but kids played hard, they did everything we asked them to do from the summertime all the way through. Then an opportunity came open for me to go to Hoover, work for Coach Josh Niblett, which, his reputation speaks for itself. If you want to go figure out how to be a better coach, go find good coaches to get yourself around. And so that's what I had a chance to do. Worked for him for 2 years. And then the offense coordinator we had at Hoover ended up getting the head coaching job at Alpharetta. in Georgia and offered me the offensive coordinator spot. So, I knew that just another way to sharpen my edge and try to find a way to be a better coach was to go and be a coordinator in 7A. I mean, last year, if you look at the last 2 years, I think it just came out, Max Preps just came out with the top 10 players, top 10 recruits in the nation. In the last 3 years, have played against 4 of the top 10. So having a chance to, coach and scheme against some of the best players in the nation, some of the best players the football has to offer, gives you a chance to really become a better coach and figure out who you are and how you are and, where your strengths are and where your weaknesses are. So, and then this job came available, and to be honest with you, I wasn't even sure if I was going to get an interview, to tell you the truth. But, the good Lord just, I guess, saw fit that this was the place he wanted us to be at. And so got here March 22nd and kind of hit the ground running and hadn't looked back since.
Yeah, so this will be your second stint as a head coach. Is there any similarities from coming in and taking this job as when you took over the Crossville job not too long ago?
Not really. Not in this sense. I say that, yes, there is one. I think the biggest similarity is that I'm the third coach in 3 years. And when I was at Crossville, there was a revolving door mentality. There was coaches coming in and coaches leaving, and another coach would come in and the coach would leave. And so that's hard. That's hard to get the kids who are in the program, especially the older guys who now I'm the third coach in 3 years, to invest in what I'm asking them to do. Because some of it's different. Like some of it's more like we're asking more out of them than maybe they've been asked to do before. And so, when you're the third guy to come in with these grand, expectations and ideas, it's a little harder, I think, early on, but, it takes time, consistency, and proof. And so I feel like that, we've been able to spend every single day with them from March 22nd up to this point. And it's been pretty consistent. Our energy is always consistent. Being able to bring in, some new guys on staff, that has helped, obviously. And then retaining some guys from the previous staff obviously always helps too, especially when you're, those guys already have a relationship with the guys that are there. So I think more than anything is just when you come in, like the biggest takeaway that I got and the biggest similarity is when you come in, like, don't try to be nothing else. You just I gotta be me. I gotta be authentic and like just do it the way that I want to do it. I had a coach tell me one time when I was in college, he said, "Hey, if you get a chance to do this, and you get a chance to be a head football coach," he said, "do it how you want to do it." And I've always took that advice, and so it kind of got us here where we are now.
Yeah, so you said you've been with the players every day almost since March 22nd. What are some of the improvements you've picked up on since then through spring ball and through 7-on-7s that you participated in this summer?
I think it's just consistent competition, finding a way to push yourself. Early on, I think we had an issue of kind of not necessarily starting out as fast as I would like us to, maybe at practice, maybe conditioning, maybe in the lift, because they weren't sure exactly what they had in the tank, if they were going to be able to last, if they were going to be able to finish it all the way through. And what I think we've taken away more than anything else is they understand now, like, hey, look, like, it don't matter how much is left. Like, we've got enough and we're good enough to compete or to do anything that we need to do. And so I feel like the mentality of our team has changed a little bit from day one all the way to now. And that's really all I ask them to do. Like, if they'll just come in and find their best every day and then understand that whatever their best was today, like tomorrow is not going to be good enough, and they got to find it and then they got to change it tomorrow. And so our kids understand that. We ask them to do it all the time, and so I think they've done a really good job of figuring out where they are each day, figuring out if that was their best or if it wasn't their best, and then changing their best the next day.
Yeah, constant improvement is probably the biggest thing that you can just ask of from your players, whether it be week to week, day to day, or whatever. But speaking of improvement, are there any players that maybe we should keep an eye on this season that could be a breakout player from last year to this year, somebody maybe that didn't play last year at all?
I think that we got a bunch of guys. We're in a weird situation where we bring back a bunch of guys with playing experience, but they don't have experience playing the positions that they're playing this year. we're blessed to not be able to have to play guys both ways. Like, we've got enough players and enough football players, not bodies, but enough football players where we have an offensive team and a defensive team. We don't have to share guys, and we don't have to go both ways or anything like that. So that's a blessing, number one, because you can get a little more in depth with your scheme. It allows you to be able to meet with your guys just a little bit more, install a little bit more, get into a little more depth and detail. So, when you think about guys offensively, if I was going to start there, obviously our quarterback, what we do, I think quarterback's the hardest position in any sport to play. So Gage Neesmith is a kid who played safety last year, but is only going to be a sophomore, and he's going to be the starter at quarterback. So got a big arm, can run really well. But we put a lot on his shoulders, and he's going to have a lot of responsibility on Friday nights. And so he's still learning, and he understands that even though he's still learning, like, nobody's going to take it easy and nobody's going to feel sorry for him. And then when you look at the guys on the perimeter for us, you got a guy coming back who probably has more wide receiver reps in a game than anybody, which is Cody Roberts. I mean, Cody's a guy that is athletic, can go make plays. And we expect him to be a playmaker for us. I've been really pleased with some of our other guys coming up in the spring and in the summertime when we had chances to compete at receiver. Especially a guy like Damon Hitchcock. I mean, he's a kid that is pretty dangerous in the slot, finds ways to get open, runs good routes, and he's just explosive when he's got the ball in his hands. And then, the other inside receiver is another young kid, sophomore kid, Cade McMichael. He's a bigger kid. He's a bigger body kid, but he runs well. Everybody told me, like, hey, if you get it around him, like, he's going to catch it. And that's been true because he's got really good hands, really soft hands, runs good routes, understands that straight line. I think he'll probably be the first one to tell you he's not the fastest kid out there, but he understands that. So he runs really good routes. So he makes up with it by running really good routes. And then the other outside receiver is Davis Lawley, who's going to be a senior. But, what you're going to get from Davis day in and day out. Like, he's going to come in there, he's going to work, he's going to know what his route is, he's going to be prepared, and he's going to be full speed every single play. I feel like our backfield could be really dangerous. We lose Carnell. So, Carnell was a great back. Obviously, if you watch any film, Carnell was a great back. But we've got two seniors and a sophomore kid who, I can't say enough good things about. Max Parsons is a guy that played linebacker last year. And he tells me all the time, he's like, Coach, you didn't think I was going to play running back. And I'm like, I didn't know if you were going to play running back or not, bro. Like, I didn't know. I never seen you play it, And so, but with Maddox Parsons, Tyler Green, and Everett Grizzard, those are three guys back there. And they're all a little bit different type of back, but they're all pretty special and they do things really well. And so I think right now at this point in time, like, Maddox may be the most polished of the three, but all three of them do things really well. And then our guys up front, look, we only bring back one starter on the offensive line, and it's crazy to say, but they're a great group. Like, they probably have one of the hardest jobs on our offense, just because there's so much information. Them, our tight ends and fullbacks. I mean, it's just a hard job. They got a hard job to do. So, but I think the leader of that group's Tucker Pierce. He's done a great job just by how he works. We got, and there's only two seniors that are going to be on that offensive line, and he's one of them. And so he's done a really good job of just leading that whole group by how he works. Now, defensively, we're a little more senior heavy on defense, and we're a little more experienced on defense. But I think if I was going to start with anywhere, our front three is going to be pretty special. We got 2-4 techniques who I think anybody in the state would love to have, and John Gilbert and Ethan Lott. I mean, those two guys can play pretty much anywhere. If you want me to be honest with you, they can go. And we've got a kid who ended up getting banged up last year, got hurt last year at Mike linebacker, Totten Rich. He's only going to be a sophomore, but he's a special kid, really high football IQ kid, understands the game, does a really good job preparing himself. Like, he'll prepare for practice. He's a guy that'll watch all the tape that you send him. He'll watch it all. And then our two outside linebackers are two kids who are going to be seniors that I don't know if we could replace them. Like they're really, really good. One, they're really good people, and then two, they're great football players, and that's Spencer Sharp and Brody Johnson. Now, the deal is Spencer played linebacker last year, so he's kind of familiar with the spot, but Brody played safety last year. So now, Brody's having to learn something a little bit different where he's having to roll down and play more in the box as opposed to being high as a safety. So, but that's what he likes to do. You could tell from the spring when he was back playing safety that, hey, he likes contact. He wants to get down in the box and be physical. So I think it's going to end up helping him. And then, in our secondary, Taylor Carr is kind of the guy in the secondary. He's a returning starter. He's long. He's athletic. He has great ball skills. He understands how to play the game. He uses his body well. But more than anything else, he's just cerebral as he plays the game. He made a play today one time. We're down in the red zone, and we got a young receiver. who's going to be really good, but he's only going to be a freshman this year. So Taylor's showing some outside leverage to him initially. Well, if you watch, we don't have any safety help. But they're playing zero, and they're bringing the house on us. So you understand, as a football player, you understand, hey, he's not going to give you that inside leverage. Well, late he ends up getting our young receiver. Like I said, it's going to be a good player, but he jumps inside late, right? Jumps inside late, jams him up. They get a sack, all right? Because we're the way that our route was set up. Well, if we got that, if one gets jammed, then it messes up 2 and 3's route, And so Taylor does a good job of understanding his technique and then playing his technique to his strengths to hide the deficiencies that he have, even though he don't have too many of them. But, it's probably a long answer, but I'm telling you, those guys are the ones that I mentioned. Those are, I think all of them have something to prove, especially this senior class, losing the group that went, last year because everybody's told them how great that group was. And I think this one kind of gets overlooked.
Yeah, the biggest thing that I think you touched on is just the ability to basically have an offense and a defense. In high school, I played both sides of the ball my junior and senior year, and then transitioning to college and being able to focus on just one side, it elevated my football IQ so much that I think that's kind of an undervalued or underappreciated part of high school, that when you have that ability to have 11 players to play offense, 11 players to play defense, it goes a long way, not just on Friday nights, but in practices. It allows you to do a lot more. But no, that was a good recap. I asked you for a few players. You highlighted about 20 of them, which is always good. But nonetheless, finishing up here, I took a look at the schedule. You play Oxford, Arab, Sardis, Etowah. You open with Lincoln. Is there one game in particular that maybe you have circled or starred on your schedule, or a friend that you're looking forward to coaching against?
Yeah, one of my best friends, the offense coordinator at Oxford. We were together at Hoover. We coached together at Hoover. The head coach is a friend, at Oxford. And he actually coached at Hoover also. But, Ben Stewart is the offense coordinator at Oxford. He got the job not too long ago. And then, me and him coached together. Had a chance to be in his wedding. I think his invite's somewhere over there in our fridge still. So he's one of my best friends. Bounce stuff off of him all the time. So I think he kind of knows what we do on offense, and we kind of know what he does on offense. And then I think it's a weird dynamic, the fact that with the new staff coming in, I know those guys, and then being able to hire Justin as our defense coordinator coming from Oxford, he knows the defensive staff really well over there. And I think that for both of us, having that opportunity to play those guys, and I think it's a true measuring stick. Like we say all the time, we want to win a state title, and people laugh us out the room when we say we want to win a state title. I don't care what those people think. If you want me to tell you, just to be honest with you, that's the goal. I told our guys today, if we're not trying to win a state title and we're satisfied by just making it to the playoffs, they need to find somewhere else to go. That's not going to be the standard, and that's not going to be the measuring stick for us. So if we want to compete for state titles, we get a chance to play against a team who's had that opportunity in the last couple of years right here in our region. And so if we want to compete for a state title, before that we got to compete for a region title, and having a chance to play against the region that we play against and test ourselves against some really good competition, that'll do us. That'll prepare you for the second part of the season. And so But I think more than anything is getting a chance to play against Oxford and those guys. I mean, that's always going to be a fun matchup either way because of the players they got, but then added the extra bonus of, getting to play against one of my best friends.
Yeah, that was actually the game that I was kind of looking forward to too. I know they have a really good quarterback over there, and I know they also have some other recruits that are also, or just some players that are also some of the top recruits in the state of Alabama. So I'm for sure going to be attending that one later this fall. But my last question for you is, you've been around football for a while. What is your favorite stadium that you've ever had the privilege of coaching in, playing in, or just visiting high school, college, or?
I think if you ask me this question after this season, I think Barney Hood's going to be the answer. But I've never seen that experience. I've never been there, never played there. Not had that chance to do any of that, except for the spring game. And up to this point, Bryant-Denny's a fun stadium to go to. Jordan-Hare's a fun stadium to go to. But, when you get a chance to coach in the Met, and the Met is rocking. I remember a couple of years ago, we're playing Talia and Thompson in the Met, and there were people. We pulled over to activate. We drive the bus over, and we're coming down the hill, and it's already packed. Stadium is packed, 17,000 plus in the stadium. And it's a different kind of atmosphere. It's a fun atmosphere. So I would have to say, as of right now, before this season starts, that was probably the most fun experience that I'd had being able to coach in a stadium. Now, as a player, we had a chance when I was in college to go play at Western Carolina. We opened the season at Western Carolina, and that place was rocking too. You wouldn't think Western Carolina would be rocking like it was, but golly, bum, they had a good group of fans in the stands that game. So. I guess as the coach, though, at this point in time, the Hoover Met against Thompson was probably the best experience I've had.
Got you. Well, I'll follow up with you this time next year and see if it is Barney Hood, like you said.
No doubt. I got no doubt about that.
Yeah. I appreciate you taking time out of your night to talk with me a little bit, talk about Southside and what to expect from them this year. I look forward to seeing you guys on the sideline. I'll for sure be at the Oxford game, planning on coming to the Lincoln one as well. But again, just best of luck, and I look forward to catching up with you.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Gage. Appreciate you.